please.
Hello. My name is Frew. I'm the founder of Biobuzz Media and Workforce Genetics. Biobuzz Media is a life sciences media publication. We help share stories about the innovators and the scientists and the companies who are developing, the therapeutics and medicines that are really on the cutting edge of health and science today. And Workforce Genetics is a recruiting company, so we help people get jobs in the field, scientists, engineers, that sort of thing.
Bill Harper. I'm a retired Army officer, once again, and somebody who's very passionate about training, passionate about learning, passionate about making sure we do have a professionally trained, I'll say force, who is ready to make things better.
Dr. Cotca, Washington Institute for Dentistry and Surgery. I'm CEO, as well as a C3 think tank, a unique collaboration, first of its kind for the last 20 years, still remains in the private sector of the healthcare sector.
Yeah, so this is going to be quite a short panel, but there are some key questions that I did want to ask. So skill gaps are often a common concern in many industries because people come from a variety of backgrounds. So how do organizations identify and address these gaps using trainings and scholarships? So what kind of strategies do they use, and how can we, if we are facing any skill gaps in an industry, how can we overcome that challenge?
Yeah, great question. So how can we, as in collective society,
yes, collective society.
Great, just making sure I have the foundation of the question. So organizations approach it a lot of different ways, and there's a lot of evolution in how they're approaching it right now. I think COVID and the Great Recession and all the forces we've seen throughout the past 3 years that have put pressure onto the workforce have really actually helped the organizations step up to the plate and act more responsibly when it comes to their workforce and identifying workforce gaps. I think organizations are evolving towards more of a workforce ecosystem understanding, where they understand who their workforce is and their talent. Fortunately, things like data analytics and evolving fields like people analytics are helping organizations really understand what their workforce is like. So some of the current trends and some of the current ways that organizations are approaching this is through internal talent marketplaces. So the more you understand your workforce, the more you can move your existing workforce through the organization more fluidly to retain your top people and provide opportunities for them. And some of the same principles are being applied externally to attracting your workforce as well. And I think that's what I'm excited about. Biobuzz is actually working on a project right now focused on that, on supporting the gaps that industry have with attracting and building better pipelines of talent. But I think a lot of technologies are really enabling workforce organizations to be more purposeful and proactive with how they're building their pipelines than really they have ever been. And I would say, the past 3 years was like the playoffs for workforce optimization in companies because of really necessity.
Thank you. One of the big things that you have to do really to identify these gaps is to really identify the problem. And if you really look at it, a workforce gap that can come into 2 to 3 different categories. One is basically your new hires that come out of college, or even somebody who is changing careers later in life. And what you have to identify with that is, do they know the industry they're going into? Have they ever been a part of that? In my case, has the person ever done environmental in their life? And really from there, you have to identify the training that they need to have to be successful in their position. A lot of times, if you're going into an environmental management position, they say, well, this person's a biologist or this person's a chemist, therefore he's a scientist and he can do the job. But that's not necessarily the case, because environmental management, in a lot of cases, you're dealing with 80 different programs with different kinds of disciplines that go into that. So really they have to understand that. And then you have to use mentoring techniques to to ensure that person has the, gains the institutional knowledge to really be able to do their job. Then you have your mid-level, professionals who, they've been experienced, they have the institutional knowledge, they do their job very, very well on a day-to-day basis. But you got to keep them interested, and also you got to make sure they are learning new techniques that can make them successful in their job. With the changing dynamics and everything, we don't want a person who's been in a position for 10 years and is still doing things the way he did it 10 years ago. So you need to continue training those people. And then you have your late career professionals who they're looking either to maintain their positions as functional leaders, or they're looking to actually be managers. So you have to look at their needs too.
So from my professorial commitments to private sector clinician, where we are in a very advanced institute where fee-for-service, essentially the creme de la creme of opportunity to implement oral systemic dentistry in a legislative fashion. To add to what has already been said, taking advantage in the private sector, small business gives a lot of creativity, opportunity to be implemented. Reaching out now to the academic side or even large organization, board positions, etc. I tend to essentially take everything paid or non-paid as a concept of contribution and also expectation from the team members, much like it's a workforce. And so, in terms of opportunities, I would say that by being an example in terms of accessing or allowing for access to internships, mentorships opportunities, but also partnerships. From a small business perspective, we found that those are very, very formidably accepted and also pursued by mid-sized or large companies, because it really takes a lot of human capital as well as funding to generate what is needed in a small project for something that's Lockheed Martin range, and they would rather come in and partner with someone of a smaller size. And by the same token, smaller size enterprise, smaller size teams would like to also partner with large because of resources and other obvious elements being present. So. Last but not least, I would say that, for instance, my own contribution in the public extended at large as a clinician and speaking to the public and educating public elements and consumers, that contribution has really paved the way for me to be requested globally from other dental experts all over the world in learning how I do this in Washington. Legislative side, regulatory, academic contributions, in addition to being a clinician. And so during these last 2-3 years of a very interesting phenomenon we've experienced and having been remote, really allowed us to form a platform where in less than a year we actually are in 70 countries, and it's called Global Leadership in Dentistry and Sciences. The reason I bring this up is because it really allows for me to now make accessible what I've learned, my experiences, my Rolodex, my connections to other geoposition-specific experts that can, of course, engage and cross-refer, cross-enhance leadership skills to represent their profession wherever they are, as well as incorporate partnerships and collaborations. And I think that serving in a contributory, educational way really sets apart the organization, the entity, to be a magnet, if you will, for like characteristic elements. So.
And this is like a similar question, but are the strategies the same, or are they like equally effective to attract underrepresented communities also into industries? Like, are they the same? Are they different? What kind of variations are there?
I think some of the strategies are the same. I think no matter what community you come from, so much of it is awareness and storytelling. I do think for underrepresented communities, though, it's important that the storytelling is even more important. And I think that awareness is, if you don't grow up in an area, or around, clinicians and scientists that you understand and you know every day. I'm in the biotech industry. If you don't grow up, like most people don't grow up and know what a bioreactor is. They grow up and they know what a phone is, so it's a little easier for us to paint a picture for someone that could go into programming or go into data science, because there's a tangible understanding of, hey, I have a Candy Crush on my phone and Instagram and stuff. So, but for some of the fields, some of the more scientific and STEM fields, there isn't an awareness. So I think it's important that we share stories about people that came from similar backgrounds or look like them, or have gone through similar career paths, because awareness, inspiration, and confidence are three things that help to direct your choices in life. I mean, again, for me personally, like confidence was a big part of it, and I didn't have it for a long time because of my my own personal struggles. And the mentorship and the people around me help build confidence. I think confidence is such an important decision or the factor in choosing the path you go. So for creating more equity or diversity in STEM fields, I do think that the storytelling and celebrating people in the field, again, is important.
I'm actually going to jump in really quickly, and can we move on to the next question?
That's fine, so I didn't really have an answer for this one.
Okay. And this is the same ending question as the last panel. So if you could provide advice for high school students in one word, what would it be? Or a short phrase, what would it be?
Find a mentor and listen to that mentor. Always trust that mentor.
Now you have heard the phrase of you can bring the horse to the water where you cannot make him drink it. So take a bite and start chewing.
Just take a step. It's not the end of when you're coming out of high school. Sometimes you think that every decision is momentous, but your life is long, and sometimes just taking a step and getting the experiences is going to help you along the path.
Yeah, thank you so much for being on this panel. It was really nice to hear about the workforce apart from just a career in the field. If Dr. Staveley could come on stage to give the certificate of appreciation, that would be great. Before we wrap up this event, I would like to invite Dr. David Torain, the president of the National Association of Academies of Science, to speak a few words.
First, I want to thank you guys for coming. I know it's been a long afternoon, and I know the weather out there is very nice. But I want to thank Judy for what she's done. She went way above a call of duty to organize this organization, this event this evening. She is the director of AJAS. And her spirit is so fresh because whatever she does, she puts her heart into it. And when I met her husband, Pete, I said, Pete, how do you deal with Judy's energy? He said, Dr. Torain, I just let her go. So we're going to let Judy go. We're going to put all of us. Give them a stand, and please give Judy a hand. And that concludes our program. Thank you, and God bless.